All right, ready for a deep dive into a love match that's anything but ordinary.
Let's do it.
Today, it's all about the Aquarius-Aquarius connection, and let me tell you, when two air signs like this collide, hold on tight.
This is one of those pairings that really makes you stop and think.
Because
On one hand, Aquarius is known for its fierce independence, right? Like, they practically wrote the book on single and loving it.
yeah, love 'em and leave 'em is practically their motto, so not exactly screaming relationship material, are they?
Exactly. But, and this is where it gets interesting,
Hit me with it.
despite that independent streak, two Aquarians together, they actually have some serious long-term potential.
All right, I'm officially intrigued. So we've got this sign that's all about freedom, maybe even a little afraid of commitment, and somehow they're finding their soulmate in someone who feels the exact same way.
You got it. And that's what we're diving into today. The how, the why, and the what to expect, from intimacy and trust to communication and those everyday relationship things.
Let's break it down. Where do we even begin with a pairing as unpredictable as this?
Let's start with the fun stuff. Intimacy. When it comes to sparks flying in the bedroom, let's just say, Aquarius-Aquarius pairings don't disappoint.
Oh, do tell.
Our sources describe their compatibility as off the charts, full of excitement and experimentation. Basically, forget everything you thought you knew about a normal love life.
Because these two are rewriting the rule book.
100%. They find a language all their own, and it's all about pushing boundaries and creating their own definition of pleasure. And the best part,
What's that?
they completely get each other's need for something different, something unique.
It's like they were made for each other, even if it's in their own quirky way.
Right. It's that shared outside-the-box mentality that really makes them click. But I know what you're thinking.
Oh, you do?
All that excitement is great, but is it enough for something real, something lasting?
Okay, yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Is it all fireworks and then fizzles out? Or is there actual depth there?
And that's where we bump into a potential hurdle. Emotional depth.
Uh-oh. So we're talking deal-breaker territory.
And not so fast. Now, before anyone panics, it's not that Aquarians are heartless robots or anything.
Right. There's more to it than that.
Exactly. It's more that they experience and express emotions a little differently. It's less about one person not being enough emotionally, and more that they both have this tendency towards detachment.
Detachment. Okay, now you've got to explain that one.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like in a day-to-day relationship?
Think of it this way. Their love is like this broad, all-encompassing thing. They care deeply about the world, about ideas, about making a difference. It's not that romantic love is absent, it just might manifest a bit differently.
Differently how?
It might feel more like a really, really close friendship.
Okay. So less about grand gestures and passionate declarations, more about a shared intellectual connection and mutual respect for each other's eccentricities.
Exactly. And you know what? That shared understanding, that foundation of mutual respect, that's what makes their approach to trust so fascinating.
Because
For an Aquarius, freedom is everything.
Okay, so we're shifting gears from emotional connection to trust. But how does that even work when you have two people who are wired for independence above all else?
It's not about working around their independence. It's more like their shared need for freedom. That becomes the foundation of trust. It's like built into their DNA. They don't get bogged down with possessiveness or jealousy.
So if you're someone who needs constant reassurance or freaks out if your partner even glances at another person.
Yeah, an Aquarius is probably not the best match for you.
Got it.
For them, personal freedom is non-negotiable, and the cool thing is they extend that same understanding to their partner. It's a deep-seated respect for each other's autonomy.
So no dramatic fights fueled by insecurity? No suspicious Instagram stalking?
Not so fast. Remember how we were saying they're unconventional, to say the least? Well, that applies to arguments, too.
Ooh. So it's not all sunshine and roses. What happens when things get heated? How do they handle conflict resolution?
Imagine, if you will, a high-stakes chess match. Now, put that chess match on a trampoline during an earthquake.
Okay, that sounds chaotic and kind of terrifying.
And you've just perfectly summed up Aquarius communication. Our sources use some pretty wild terms to describe it, actually. Things like God's voice and electrical connections.
God's voice. Now I really need an explanation.
It all comes down to their unique perspective, right? They see the bigger picture, they make connections that other people miss, and it can feel almost telepathic the way they communicate, like they're speaking their own language.
So they understand each other, which is great, but There's that trampoline earthquake thing.
Right. With all that brain power bouncing around, sparks are bound to fly.
So instead of shouting matches, we're talking intellectual sparring.
Exactly. Think less about hurt feelings and more about whose turn is it to drop the most mind-blowing argument. It's stimulating. It's all about challenging each other's perspectives, pushing each other to think outside the box. Remember, we're talking about two very strong personalities here, each with a deep-seated need to express their individuality. So yeah.
Things can get a little competitive.
A little, but it comes from a good place, you know? They crave that back and forth, that clash of ideas. It's how they grow.
Not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely fascinating. We've covered intimacy, trust, how they argue. But what about the more, shall we say, mundane aspects of a relationship? Like, what do they even do for fun?
Well, like we said, Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
Not really their thing.
So no Netflix and chill. Paint me a picture. What does a typical date night look like for two Aquarians?
Instead of dinner and a movie, picture this: attending a lecture on astrophysics, followed by volunteering at an animal shelter.
Okay, so we're definitely not talking about your average couple here. They're not just looking for a good time, are they? It's deeper than that?
Way deeper. It's about learning, growing, challenging themselves. Plus, that whole making a difference thing, huge for Aquarians.
Right. They're all about that social consciousness. So while some couples are bonding over their favorite rom-com, these two are off exploring ancient ruins or something.
See, you get it. It's all about embracing the unexpected. And honestly, that's a big part of what makes them so good together.
Because they encourage that same sense of adventure in each other.
Exactly. It's like their relationship itself becomes this journey of discovery, you know? They grow individually, but they're also growing together.
And that brings us back to the big question, doesn't it? Can a relationship this unconventional, can it actually go the distance? Because we've talked about the excitement, the freedom, but also...
Any potential pit meals.
Exactly. Like, how do those emotional differences play out long term?
And the answer is, it's complicated. Even with all the astrological insights, this is one of those pairings where it really depends on their ability to connect on that deeper emotional level. Because remember, that easy breezy intimacy, that's there, but traditional emotional expression, not so much.
So it's not impossible for them to make it last. It's just...
It takes work, more than your average couple maybe, because they really have to make a conscious effort to understand and meet each other's emotional needs, even if those needs don't always look normal by other people's standards.
So what you're saying is the potential is definitely there, but it's not a given.
Exactly. But, you know, when they do figure it out, when they build that strong emotional bond,
what happens?
it's something really special, powerful, because it's built on this foundation of mutual respect, understanding, shared values. You don't see that every day.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks, a deep dive into one of the zodiac's most intriguing pairings.
The unpredictable, always surprising Aquarius-Aquarius connection.
If you're looking for a love story that's anything but ordinary, a love that challenges you, excites you, and maybe even confounds you a little bit along the way.
An Aquarius just might be your perfect match.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.